Short. Strong. Espresso English.
Fuel your day. Let's learn.
Quick question, when you walk into a birthday party, do you drift toward the small sofa circle or do you head straight for the loud, crowded center?
Because that first second can feel weirdly intense, like everyone already knows where they belong and you're still holding your coat.
Exactly. And if you're the kind of person who freezes at the doorway, you're not broken. You're just reading the room fast, and your brain is doing a lot in a second.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you are welcome too. And today, we're talking about small get-togethers versus big parties, and why they can feel like totally different social worlds.
You might love a deep conversation with 3 people, or you might feel alive when the room is buzzing with noise, movement, and new faces.
And there is one thing we discovered. Your comfort level isn't just about personality, it's about how you use small talk, how you break the ice, and whether you can blend in without feeling like you're performing.
Quick question, type a number in your head, not out loud. Small group or big party? And be honest, because your answer says a lot.
Mine used to be big party, until I realized I spent half the night smiling at people whose names I'd already forgotten. Very elegant, very tragic.
That's painfully relatable. And I think a lot of listeners know that feeling. You walk in, hear laughter, see 100 tiny conversations, and suddenly you're thinking, where do I even join in?
Or maybe you do join in, but only after standing there for too long, trying to look calm while your brain is running 3 scripts at once.
And that's the point of this episode. We're not asking which one is better in a moral way. We're asking which setting helps you connect, speak, and actually feel like yourself.
Stay until the end for our word tour 5 expressions you'll hear in real social life, not just in textbooks.
And later, we'll give you one tiny trick for entering a conversation without that awkward, can I come in energy.
Also, if you're listening while pretending to work, we see you. And honestly, respect.
So let's start there. Small talk, big energy, and the strange pressure of picking your place in the room.
Let's build the scene from the beginning. Imagine you open the apartment door, and the noise hits you first. Music, glasses, a burst of laughter, and then that little pause in your own head.
And in that pause, you're scanning faces, noticing who's leaning back, who's talking fast, who already looks deep in conversation. It's a lot.
Exactly, and that's why this choice matters. A small group can feel safer because the social pressure drops. You don't need to compete with 10 voices, and you can actually hear the thread of the conversation.
But for some people, the big party feels easier at first because there's less spotlight on them. If one conversation stalls, they can move, they can drift, listen, and blend in without having to perform the whole time.
Right, and that's a real difference. In a small group, your silence is visible. In a big party, your silence can disappear into the background like a polite ghost.
A polite ghost is such a good image, but it's also why so many learners feel stuck. They're not afraid of English itself. They're afraid of the social moment right before English begins.
And that's where small talk comes in. People hear that phrase and think it means empty conversation, but it's actually social glue. The light, casual stuff that helps people relax before they go deeper.
Like, how do you know the host? Or have you tried this drink? Or this place is packed tonight. None of that is dramatic, but it gives you an entry point.
Exactly. Small talk is not the final destination. It's the bridge. It gives you time to read the energy, and it helps other people feel that you're safe to talk to.
And if you want to break the ice, you don't need a perfect line. You just need something ordinary enough that people can answer without effort. That's why "How was your week?" works better than a huge personal interview.
I once tried to break the ice by asking a stranger about his life philosophy. He looked at me like I'd handed him a final exam.
That's exactly the problem. Too much, too soon. Good small talk is easy to step into, not heavy enough to trap anyone.
Now, here's the deeper part. When you choose a small group, you might be choosing depth over speed. When you choose a big party, you might be choosing breadth over depth. Neither choice is noble or weak. They're just different social strategies.
And sometimes people use the word introvert too fast, like it explains everything. But the real question is more specific. Where do you feel your effort pays off? Where do you feel seen? Where do you feel less friction?
That friction is real. In a huge room, you may spend energy trying to join in, and the conversation keeps moving before you get the timing right. That doesn't mean you're bad at socializing. It means the setting is moving faster than your style.
And in a smaller circle, the opposite can happen. You might have more time to think, more time to listen, and more time to hit it off with one person instead of trying to impress everybody at once.
Which is a relief because trying to impress everybody is exhausting. No one has the budget for that, emotionally or financially.
Let's make this concrete. Picture two listeners. One walks into a party, sees a quiet kitchen group, and says, "Mind if I join in?" Simple, natural, no drama.
The other listener sees two people talking near the window and says, "What were you saying about the new project?" That's also natural. It sounds like you were already half in the conversation.
And those tiny entry lines matter more than people think because they reduce the pressure. You're not trying to take over the room. You're just stepping into an opening.
And if the connection is there, you'll hit it off fast. That doesn't mean instant friendship forever. It just means the first 10 minutes feel easy, like the social gears actually catch.
Or maybe you don't hit it off with everyone, and that's fine too. Some rooms are for quick exchanges, some are for real closeness, and some are just for surviving with a drink in your hand.
Honestly, that last one is a valid social category. Survival with snacks is still participation.
So the question isn't, do you like people or not? It's which environment lets your voice show up without too much effort? That's a much kinder question.
And by the way, there's a phrase for that feeling of stepping into the right social rhythm. We'll break it down later, but you've already heard it several times in this story.
For now, just notice this. If you've ever stayed near the edge of the room, that's not failure. It's data. It tells you what kind of social energy you need.
And data is useful because once you know your pattern, you can choose better. Not louder, better.
So maybe the real win isn't becoming a different person. It's learning how to walk into the room and find your easiest doorway in.
I still think big parties are underrated. If you want to grow socially, you need friction, noise, and a little chaos. That's where people notice you, and that's where you can practice joining in fast.
I have to disagree. You're treating discomfort like it's automatically useful. Sometimes a big party just makes people disappear and not in a cool, mysterious way.
But that's exactly my point. If you can hold your ground in a crowded room, you're building social stamina. You're learning to break the ice with strangers, not just hiding inside one safe circle.
Wait, that assumes the crowded room is fair to everyone. It isn't. Some people need a slower start, and if they're forced to join in too early, they don't practice confidence. They practice panic.
Panic is dramatic, sure, but a little pressure can be healthy. If every conversation is a calm little sofa chat, you may never learn how to blend in when the room gets louder.
That's missing the whole picture. Blending in isn't the same as hiding, and a small group isn't a social prison. It can actually be the place where people hit it off because they finally feel safe enough to speak.
But what if safety turns into avoidance? People can stay in the same tiny circle for years and call it comfort when really they're just avoiding stretch. Big parties force variety. They make you adapt.
I'm not convinced that more variety always means more growth. Sometimes it just means more exhaustion. If someone spends all night trying to catch random bits of small talk, they may leave feeling empty instead of connected.
Fair, but the empty feeling can come from not participating enough. If you stay silent in the corner, the night will always feel flat. You've got to risk a simple, "Mind if I join in?" or "What are you talking about?"
And I think that's where the real issue is. The best move isn't bigger or smaller by default. It's choosing the room where your first sentence has a chance to land. In a huge party, timing matters so much that one missed moment can shut you out.
Still, missed moments are part of life. If you only go where the timing feels easy, you may never build the skill to enter a room gracefully. Social confidence doesn't arrive from waiting.
I disagree again. Because confidence also comes from good fits. If you walk into the right room and hit it off with one person, that's not playing small. That's efficient human connection.
Efficient human connection. That sounds like something I'd say after 3 coffees and a spreadsheet. But okay, let's test it. Suppose the host says, "Come meet everyone." In a big party, you can spend 10 minutes just finding a place to stand.
Exactly, and by the time you found a place, the conversation has already changed 3 times. That's why some people feel like they're always late to the moment, even when they arrived on time.
But that's also why the bigger setting teaches flexibility. You learn to enter a moving conversation, not a frozen one. That skill matters in work, networking, and any room where people are shifting fast.
Yes, but a small gathering teaches something else: listening, follow-up, and depth. You can hear the thread, remember a detail, and respond like an actual person, not a social firework.
A social firework is a brutal image. But I get it. Still, if you can only connect when the room is calm, you might struggle when life is messy. Big parties are messy by nature, and that's useful training.
Maybe training isn't the right word for every moment. Some gatherings are not classrooms. They're just places where people want to feel comfortable. If a small group helps someone show up honestly, that's already valuable.
But if someone always chooses the easy lane, they may never discover they're better at large rooms than they thought. I've seen quiet people come alive once the energy is high. They just needed a nudge.
And I've seen loud rooms make brilliant people go silent, so we can't pretend one format is universally better. The real question is whether the space lets your style breathe.
Okay, let's make this practical. Imagine 2 different birthdays. In one, you have 6 people, 1 sofa, and 1 conversation that goes deep fast. In the other, you have 20 people, music, and constant shifting. Which one gives you a better chance to speak without strain?
For many learners, the small one. Not because it's safer in a childish way, but because it gives them time to use small talk, break the ice, and then join in naturally. That's not less social. It's more deliberate.
And for other people, the big one. They like motion, options, and the chance to blend in until the right moment appears. They don't want a spotlight. They want room to move.
So maybe we're arguing about 2 kinds of access. One is access through depth and the other is access through movement. Neither one is fake. Neither one is inferior.
That's the balance I can live with. Big parties can expand your range, and small groups can sharpen your presence. The mistake is thinking one style proves something about your work.
Exactly. Your social preference isn't a verdict. It's a clue. And once you read the clue well, you stop blaming yourself for not enjoying the wrong room.
And if the right room gives you one good connection, you might hit it off so naturally that the rest of the night feels easy.
Which is why we're not asking you to become louder. Just smarter about where your voice lands best. So we've got the big picture now. Some people want depth, some want motion, and both can be right.
And the real bridge is language. The tiny phrases that help you enter, stay, and connect without forcing.
In a minute, we'll unpack 5 expressions from the story. The ones that make social life feel less awkward.
And trust me, they're way more useful than pretending you suddenly love everyone at the party.
So after that whole birthday party moment, one phrase keeps coming back to me. Small talk. It sounds tiny, but it really is the door in.
Right? Small talk is light, casual conversation about everyday topics. It's the safe first step before anyone jumps into deeper stuff.
Like, how do you know the host? Or how was your week? That's small talk. Not because it's shallow, but because it lowers the social pressure.
And if you skip it too fast, the room can feel a bit like a cold swimming pool. Technically, you can get in, but everyone's tense.
That image is weirdly accurate. And it leads straight to break the ice. People think that phrase means being clever or funny, but most of the time it just means helping everyone relax enough to speak.
Exactly. You break the ice when you make the first move that feels easy, not impressive. Want a drink? Can break the ice. Have you tried this cake? Can break the ice.
So it's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about creating a small opening so the conversation can move.
And that opening matters even more when people are trying to blend in. To blend in means to fit in naturally, without standing out too much.
So if I walk into a party, stand near a group, and smile without interrupting, that's blending in?
Yes, but I'd say it's more than just standing there. It's reading the room, matching the energy a little, and entering in a way that feels natural instead of forced.
That makes sense. You're not disappearing. You're just not announcing yourself like, "Hello everyone, I'm here to be social now."
Please don't do that. It sounds like a software update. New guest has arrived. Please prepare applause.
Okay, that was terrible. And also funny. Now, join in is the phrase we use when you become part of an activity or conversation.
Right? You can join in a discussion, join in a game, join in a toast, or join in a laugh. It's active. You're not just watching from the edge.
So if two people are talking about travel and I say, "Can I join in?" That's perfectly natural.
Absolutely. And it's often better than waiting forever. A simple "can I join in" sounds polite and clear.
And then there's hit it off, which is one of those phrases people love because it feels immediate. It means you quickly become friendly and get along well with someone.
It's that moment when the conversation just clicks. Suddenly you're not forcing anything, and even the awkward pauses feel easy.
Like when two people start talking about movies, realize they both hate the same genre, and 5 minutes later they're finishing each other's sentences.
That's hit it off in real life. Not fireworks, not destiny. Just fast comfort and easy rhythm.
Let's make the words live in one mini scene. I used small talk to break the ice. Then I tried to blend in, joined in the group, and hit it off with Maya.
Nice. And every part has a job. Small talk starts it, break the ice, opens the space, blend in keeps the pressure low, join in moves you inside, and hit it off describes the connection.
And if we stretch it a little, these phrases show different stages of the same social moment. First, the doorway. Then the entrance. Then the connection.
Exactly. And that's why they're useful in real life, not just in lessons. You don't need a huge speech. You need the right chunk at the right moment.
Let's test them in a tiny role play. I'll be at a party. Hey, what were you all talking about?
Perfect. That's a smooth way to join in, and it sounds friendly, not pushy.
I was trying to blend in, but I heard you mention Italy, and I've got a story.
Great, that feels natural, and it gives the other people something easy to grab.
Then if the energy clicks, you can say, "We really hit it off talking about food."
Beautiful. And notice how none of that sounds stiff. It sounds like real conversation, which is the whole point.
So these 5 expressions aren't random vocabulary. They're social tools. Tiny, practical, and very human.
And if you use them enough, you stop thinking, "How do I get in?" and start thinking, "Which doorway feels easiest today?"
So we've really landed on the main idea here. Small groups and big parties both work, but they support different kinds of connection. If you want depth, a quieter circle can help. If you want range, a bigger room can give you more chances to move.
And the big takeaway is that your preference isn't a flaw. It's useful information. If you keep trying to force yourself into the wrong setting, you'll spend energy fighting the room instead of reading it.
One practical move is still the same every time. Pause for 30 seconds when you arrive. Watch the rhythm. Then pick the group that matches it. That tiny reset can save you from walking in too fast and feeling lost.
And use one low-pressure line. What were you talking about? Or how do you know the host? Are both easy ways to join in without sounding stiff. You're not auditioning. You're entering.
My own reminder is simple. I used to think I had to be impressive in every room. Honestly, that made me more nervous. The moment I stopped chasing perfection, I started having better conversations.
Same here. I used to over-prepare tiny jokes, and then I forget them the second someone handed me a drink. That's when I learned real connection usually starts with ordinary words.
So try this week. Notice whether you feel more relaxed in a small group or a big party, and don't judge the answer. Then practice one phrase, one pause, and one clean entry.
And next time, we'll keep exploring social English from another angle. Maybe how to leave a conversation gracefully without sounding cold. That one comes up more often than people admit.
Thanks for spending this time with us. We hope the episode gave you a calmer way to look at social pressure and maybe a little more trust in your own style.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, when you walk into a party, do you head for the small group or the big crowd?